Oh, hey! I'm glad you were able to make it, Sol Tsukino. I don't remember your real name. I'm sorry. Getting a bit of a delay here. Oh, looks like I'm getting a call. Gotta get Steven in here. Just figuring things out. This is actually my first time using this software, so getting a few hiccups, but not too bad. Let's try one more time. Come on, Steven. Oh, we still got 5 more minutes. Oh, so glad you guys got the email. Oh, I didn't realize there was the part about turning on YouTube. Huh. Steven keeps trying to call me, but I'm not sure how to call him. Well, I mean, I keep calling him and it doesn't seem to be working. Oh, here we are. Oh, interesting. He says he keeps joining and then I leave. Just join even if I leave.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, you are there. Hi,
yes,
Steven.
I'm here. And hello to our audience. You're going to be seeing this recorded. So Lauren and I just started the webinar a bit early so we can welcome in all our guests. Now, for me, it's my first webinar I've done using Google Hangouts. Lauren's walked me through this. So, Lauren, where are we doing the chats, by the way? Is there going to be a side chat?
It looks like when you're on the live webinar page that I emailed to our guests, you can see what everyone's talking about, and we can continue to address those as we go through the webinar.
Now, what webinar software are you using? Because I know our audience, when they rewatch this webinar, might want to use it themselves. Which company did you go with?
I went with Lead Pages.
Now, they do look really good.
Yeah, I love this setup. They let me customize with this cool green color. And then all I had to do was put the embed code for Google Hangouts on Air, which is free, into it.
Yes. Hey, we're already getting a lot of people in there, so let me just greet everyone. I'll just punch my name in here. And yeah, it already looks like we've got quite a chat going there. We've got Mike Hev, Soltsuko, Ringier, and I'm going to just try not to pronounce everyone's different handles. Like playing Team Fortress again, except I don't have a flamethrower and people aren't yelling at me for using it.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm actually a huge Team Fortress geek because I really do enjoy the strategy of the game because I'm a manager and there's nothing like observing teams in action.
You just like wearing all the funny hats.
It's more a case of, wow, this is really an example of a nonlinear organizational structure, and now I'm dead again.
I think of it as funny hat simulator.
Even Brental Floss made fun of it. So we're getting people in there. Let's see if everyone can see us, too. Let me see. Yes, they can. They're already making Team Fortress jokes. So.
Oh, awesome.
And for those of you who are joining, we also have that book bargain, don't we, Lauren? You've set that up as well.
We sure do. That thing, that countdown you see on the side, it looks a little intimidating, but it's not like a bomb or anything. It's just how long you have to snag a webinar exclusive book bundle on Gumroad. Gumroad is just the service I use to sell our books, so we can have. There are no fewer than 23 different files in there.
Oh yes, it's our career books in every format if you want to get it, and it's a real great discount. We've got my Fanda Pro second edition, which is sort of my flagship book. We've got my focused fandom books. We've got your otaku journalist books. We pretty much just got everything in there. It's the kind of thing that's going to give you months of reading if you buy it.
Yeah, and what's amazing is even just one of these books changed my life and changed, like, it made me decide to become the otaku journalist and figure out what to do with my career.
Oh, I like that's my book, correct? Fanda Pro.
Fanda Pro.
You did it with the original edition, which by now sort of wasn't the pinnacle of my writing. It was my first book, but I'm glad it could help you.
And now it's just everything coming together in this bundle, because there's Fanda Pro, the book that inspired me, and then there's my book, Otaku Journalism, about how
it inspired me in my writing.
And it has a foreword by you. So it's just, it's books on books on books here. Bookception,
really. By the way, for those of you who had wondered, what's back here are a series of video game posters rendered Japanese ukiyo style, because I'm a big fan of crossover pop culture art. People usually ask when I do any videos from this location, which is the best location because otherwise my bedroom is currently occupied. My roommate is sleeping. We share a bedroom until we can upgrade. She just moved out. Otherwise, you get a lovely view of my bookshelf and her ball-jointed doll collection. So this was the best choice.
It sounds a little creepy if you don't know what you're looking at.
She's epically artistic. Her ball-jointed doll works fantastic. She's a real artist. So I think we're actually starting in about 2 minutes. So before we begin, anyone out there in the audience, you got any questions? Beyond, am I going to make another Brental floss reference? Now, I also have to remember not everyone types as fast as I do.
I've got a question.
Oh, well, let's start.
I'm wondering if, while people are thinking of things, if they can tell me if they decided to print out the worksheet today, because I think that the worksheet really is essential for this webinar, because I basically tried to base it off of the structure we used when we were planning the webinar.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And it's very helpful. And even if you don't have printed it out, go ahead and, print it out for later, and it may be able to help you out. Lauren, I think we're about ready to start.
I think so too.
All right. So everyone in the lobby, hello. Glad to see you. I'm Steve Savage. You know me from stevensavage.com, informotron.com, and the infamous inspiration site Seventh Sanctum. And I write on geeky careers and creativity, and I'm starting to speak on cooking. And Lauren?
I'm Lauren Orsini. You might also know me as the Otaku Journalist. I write at otakujournalist.com and also as a reporter at places like Forbes and Anime News Network.
And this is our webinar on 7 ways to build your geek dream job. So what we did is we put together a webinar, kind of putting our heads together on how people can build your geek dream job. Now, this is not the idea that you're going to find a way to make money for no work. If you want to do that, get a reality show. But instead, the idea is, how can you take your interests and sort of build the geek dream job, the job based around your passions and interests, which is something both of us have done. I'm in Silicon Valley working in technology, and I come from a gaming and computer and science fiction geek background.
And I'm all the way on the other side of the country here in DC. I have a journalism background, and I'm not so much into games as I am into anime and manga.
Yes.
And we're both very different ages. Well, not very different.
Thanks. There's a range of what, 20 years, 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to provide kind of both viewpoints, the young and the seasoned. So why don't we dive into it? Okay. So the first thing you want to do in defining your geek dream job is know yourself, what you're interested in and why. And basically, is it something that you can make a career niche out of, which is something you've done?
That's right. And one of the things people tend to ask me a lot when it comes to like picking a topic is how do I make sure it's not too narrow and not too broad?
Exactly. And I think you have to remember that there's two kinds of specificity. You can be very specific about things like what you do and what you do it for. I'm a project and program manager. I am a nerd wrangler, but that's my specialty. I've worked in areas from games to PCs to mobile advertising, but my niche is the skills that I apply to certain tasks. Someone else might work in an industry. They might be gamings, they might be anime. And so when you figure out what you want to do, you have to ask where the sides are that fit what you're doing. Maybe you have a narrow career and industry definition, or maybe it's just one or the other, like me. But you have to find, yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I totally understand what that's like. I think my niche has actually expanded over time because when I first started out as a otaku journalist, I thought I only want to write about geek stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got my job for the Daily Dot and started freelancing, I found out it's not just like traditional geeks, the way I think of it, people who geek out about the same things that I do. It's communities that are built around a really specific topic, people who are really passionate about these ultra specific topics, whether it be like ball jointed dolls, like your roommate, for example, or technology, people with very specific technological skills who are very interested in maybe just one technology like Node.js. It's so weird because I had never used a software like, well, a framework like Node.js before. And I just got really absorbed into it because the community of people around it were just kind of obsessed. So it's more like my career follows this feeling more than any one topic.
And that's also a case of you knowing something instinctive. I think I'd add that in finding what you really need to know about yourself, you have to look for that passion. I am a natural organizer, a natural systems person. So I was always going to be the guy that ended up managing things and building systems, whether it's, you know, a generator to make ideas or a management structure. But I like technology. So the first thing to do is just know where your passions are and know if there's something you can do with it. And some of us actually stop right there. We get confused. But I always like to say, if you can sum yourself up in a sentence, you're there. If you can find a way to sum yourself up in a sentence. I mean, me, I'm a writer and manager who focuses on technology, geekdom, creativity, and what I like to call public-facing stuff, databases, websites, and so on. Well, database-driven websites. You can sum yourself up in a sentence, then you know yourself enough to build a career around it. And if not, well, keep working at it.
It's kind of a long sentence, but
I didn't
it's a
say I had to be
sentence.
short here. Let's use the One Punch Man rule. Can you do it in 20 words or less?
Perfect. Perfect. The One Punch Guide to Careers.
I also a fantastic anime. So I'd say once you know yourself, the next question, and this is big, is how to provide value.
I think of this as like a triangle, or maybe, well, I've also seen it as like a Venn diagram. Something you're good at, which is also something you like, which is also something that makes money.
Mm-hmm. I like that, in fact. And yeah, and providing value, that's where you sort of figure out how to turn it into something people want so you get money. And that's really challenging.
I think that the best thing to do at this level is to test and fail quickly or succeed quickly. I say fail quickly because it's like, well, if I fail, then it wasn't that much work. But if I succeed, it's like, wow, I just succeeded with very little work. This is what I did when I was building that affiliate site that I talk about a lot, where I sell Gundam robot models.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had this inkling of an idea that if I made a blog where I had Amazon affiliate links linking to the Gundams on it while providing advice about how to build them, that it would make money. But I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it. So I bought a domain and I spent a weekend, that's all, just writing 5 blog posts, building a really basic theme, and just launching it and seeing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that month, I had made $200.
One of the things you can do, Lauren notes, is in trying to come up with ideas and deliver value, prototype. Now, you don't have to do with a blog trying to sell robot models, though, hey, if you can make a living at that, more power to you. But you can do it on your current job, offer to take on another task. You could do it as a side venture as well. But what you want to do is find out where to do stuff and what to do that will give value to people so they give you money. That's what it comes down to, is we want these jobs to have a living at something we care about. And I think you're right that we have to prototype, but we also have to research. You can flail around randomly, so do a little bit of research, and it really can pay off. Talk to people and see what you've done.
You know, one thing that worked for me with I just want to keep going on the robot site a little bit, because if that had failed, it was only one weekend out of my entire life that I would have had to devote to it. And it wasn't like I put a ton of money into it, like dumping in money on a logo and things that I have since spent on it. But what I found useful for research here was I used Google keywords in order to see what was popular. I found out that Gunpla was a rarer but more searched term, if that makes sense, than Gundam. There were a lot of already popular Gundam sites, or sites with Gundam in it, so I was able to like close down on a niche. So if I wanted to recreate the success of that site, I would go back to Google Trends and just start putting in keywords. Maybe I mean, this is a lot of people here I happen to know have interests that would make really good affiliate sites. Like if you want to review anime and you put Amazon affiliate links to the anime that you're reviewing.
Yeah, it's little things. Another thing I did with my writing career is I merged my hobby into it. I write anyway. So I have a longer term plan to develop it. So it's not so much that my writing can succeed or fail, but it's a long-term experiment. Interesting with my book sales. Fan to Pro is not my best-selling book.
Really?
No, it is my book on cosplay, costuming, and careers. That's the one that sells. And what's funny is my big sales season is coming up because Christmas time is when everyone buys copies of this thing. Physical copies during the year sell around the holidays. I never would have guessed that. So if you do a longer term experiment, you can kind of tweak your geeky interests. And it's not just so much an experiment of if this weekend doesn't succeed, I move on. You can adjust towards your goal. It's kind of like 2 ways to try to deliver value. One is little experiments. One is long-term commitment. And you can mix them in by doing little experiments in the long-term commitment. But basically, get off your butts and do something to find a way to deliver value and keep trying. Whether it's one big project you modify or a lot of little ones, keep providing value and find what people want.
You know, Stephen, that just made me think of something. Like, before I wrote Otaku Journalism, I was thinking, I don't know if I want to devote all my time to a book. That's a lot of work. And so what I did at first was I wrote just one chapter. And I took that chapter, converted it to a PDF, put a Google Analytics tracker on it, and made it free on my site. Then I just checked to see on the Google Analytics tracker who downloaded it. And I saw that a bunch of people were downloading it. And what if 0 people had downloaded it? Then it's like, what? I only spent like a little bit of time writing one chapter. I didn't write a whole book and then find out there was no need for it. But you know what? I feel like I would have written that book even if I had 0 downloads because it was just something I really cared about. And if it even affected one person the
Yeah.
way that Fan to Pro affected me, then it would have been worth it. And I guess that's combining your hobby with,
Exactly. And a
mhm.
similar thing I'm doing is I've written when, I've had a project Fan to Pro, which evolved into MuseHack, which now is at my own site. And I'm actually now taking the best content and I'm working on turning it into small free ebooks. So you can also repurpose things. But the key thing is get to work and find a way to deliver value. And that goes to the section 3 on your worksheets, everyone. Know how to build skills. And that is really important because once you have a plan of here's what I like, here's how I'll provide value, you have to get good enough to do it.
This is section 3 is basically just what Fan to Pro is all about. Like how you can look through your fandom and see these skills you have that you might have not even known you were building.
Oh, yeah. In fact, most of us are, and this is a strange thing, but I also write on resumes. I don't just do cool, geeky stuff. I think I'm like one of the only people on the planet to go to an anime con and have a panel on how to make a resume. But
And what's amazing is your panels are pretty popular too. I always like them.
I've started taking candy, and that's made them even more popular. So
He did this at YowieCon, by the way, everyone.
yes, I had Lindor truffles there. So one of the things that I've found in coaching people on resumes and being an elder geek, an old otaku, whatever you want to call it, most people are terrible at estimating their skill levels. They get it wrong. The few people we meet who are arrogant enough to overestimate their skills make us worry we're going to be like them. So most people are terrible at realizing how good they are or potentially good. And the key thing with your fandom is, with your geekdom, is it can show you what you're good at, show you what you're like, but if you're not really good, it gives you a place to practice. If you want to truly be an accountant, then if you hang out and run 3 different anime conventions, start running the numbers, start being the accountant there. If you are a person who really, really is obsessed with organization, like me, if you can wrangle your gaming club into having regular events and so on, then you're learning. Fandom is a place that tells you what you like, shows you how good you are, but lets you become good. So yes, you need your training, your degrees, and so on, but use the skills you need every day for fun. But find how to build those skills. That makes the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I recently got a job doing graphic design for the Department of Justice. And some of the stuff in my portfolio was stuff I did for Anime USA, just some design I did there. Nobody really cared that it was for Anime USA. They cared like what it showed about my design skills.
But it's something. I have taken my books to interviews. I have gifted future bosses with them and said, here is a copy. You want to know whether you should hire me as Mr. Organizational Geek? I made a book on my own, me, an editor, and a cover artist. Tell me I'm not a giant ball of anal retentiveness. And it doesn't say that on my business card, but I'm willing to give that idea a shot. No, but go and you may be amazed how it pays off. But you bring up something else too. As you build your skills, be it through degrees, certification, classes, or being the person that tries to get your wargaming group to be a little bit better organized in their 1,000 different Warhammer models, you can use that as an example. Especially if you're in an area that is reasonably diverse, geeky stuff is very cool. I mean, people I work with love how I speak at anime conventions and other things. I've become the translator to the young people on jobs before, which is kind of amusing. That you get this stuff, explain the t-shirt to me. You can use this stuff to show your skills. You see, anyone can, list bullet points in their resume on their job. But when you can describe your skills and how you use them and how you gain them and how you're passionate in an interview, when you can show that on a resume, when you show somebody a Gundam site or your own self-publishing site, or videos from a con where you hosted the cosplay, that shows you give a damn. And that is worth just as much as someone with a degree that they didn't really care about. That is
Stephen,
important.
Stephen, I'm wondering, has it always been like this? Because you've been in the career market for a long time, and I'm wondering if at one point geekiness wasn't quite as cool, like when Game of Thrones wasn't on TV, stuff like that.
I call that the power of Dinklage.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, everyone. Peter Dinklage is awesome. The thing is, I've worked in technology for, and I want to emphasize, 19 years. I wrote things in Visual Basic 4.0. I remember HTML without tables. But I've
Mm.
always been in the geeky sphere since my 20s. I don't know. I assume it's probably been different, but I've been in technology so long, it's a little hard for me to step outside. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm that colossal a nerd. So, you know, I convinced a guy to provision servers once by talking about his Halo action figures. So I assume it's been different elsewhere.
Yeah, but I'd say right now, I mean, I just got a job because I met a guy at an anime convention who recommended that I apply. And when I showed up for the interview, they were like, "Oh, you're the anime girl." And it wasn't, even though it doesn't seem like a lot of people are into anime at this new job.
Mhm.
It does seem like it doesn't phase them the way it might have once back when Blockbuster labeled hentai as anime, you know, all in the same section.
Old enough to remember, yes. Yeah, it does depend. Also, since I've worked in technology and now I'm a Silicon Valley guy, this area I feel less nerdy than I should be. So I'm not sure. But also, if you're a geek, be unrepentant about it because they're going to find out anyway about your secret collection of Deadpool fanfic. So you might as well just get it out there now. And if any of you have a secret stash of Deadpool fanfic, I want you to remember to not email it to me.
Time to move on to the next.
Yeah,
To
once
the
Deadpool
next
fanfic
module.
comes in, it's time to move on. But boy, after
Mhm.
after the movie, the next thing, though, once you have your skills and you know how to build them, once you know how to provide value, and once you know yourself, you need to build a plan. This is where a lot of people fall down. Is you have to have a plan. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, you can overdo it. Take it from a guy who builds plans for a living. But you need to know how to get from point A to point B. You could fail. But once you have an idea of how to get from point A to point B, when you do something epically stupid, you'll know why and you can fix it. But have a plan to turn these skills and providing value for what you love into a career.
I think my most basic business plan has been build a portfolio of the stuff I can do and then tell people about it. That worked.
And that's more plan than some people have. I regularly do job coaching, and I always feel I'm going to be tired of explaining the basics. And then after a panel, I'm like, oh God, I needed to explain the basics.
No,
Why?
I always forget the basics.
Mhm.
Like I was thinking of a project recently, and I was telling my husband about it, of something we can add on to the Gundam site. And I'm like, oh, well, I could pay this person to do it. And he's like, okay, well, how are we going to earn that money back from that? I'm like, and he's like, well, if you don't know how we're going to earn the money back, it's just a hobby.
Mhm.
And that should be business 101. But I'm always forgetting that.
Well, at the same time, you have to remember that in your plan, there's investments in different kinds of payoffs. And this is something I want to bring up. When you build a plan, there will be expenses in time, in money, in sanity, or causing insanity. But the payoff may not occur directly. Let me give an example with my writing. My writing, very simply, at best, breaks even right now. It is a hobby-esque thing that over time is bringing more money in. But the impact on my career in skills, in getting hired, in being noted is extreme. My last, I would say, 3 jobs, possibly 4 or 5, my writing played a role in getting the jobs or the contracts, pure and simple. And I would estimate that though I didn't make a lot of money in the writing, the amount of money I made with jobs I got helped by the writing is a pretty tidy sum. So you want to make sure you have a plan and you want to measure results, but you have to ask where you're measuring them.
I'd like to
That's very
share.
important.
I'll share another business plan. When I wanted to create the book on building your anime blog, I thought about how many hours it would take me to write this and how much I could make if I had spent those hours working for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is a lot more than what I got on the book. But here's what I did. I cut costs by, instead of having an editor, I had beta readers look over the book.
Mm-hmm.
I had a designer do the cover, but I had it as a very basic, one of his very basic offerings without any
Oh, good.
revisions,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And I calculated a price based on how many people it would take to break even with my investments into the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to break even in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to do that if I hadn't previously written my book, Otaku Journalism, which took about a year to break even because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to, oh, hey, Nathan.
Yeah.
Okay, I had no idea how to turn that into a business. It was a hobby. If you're not figuring out how you're going to make more money, or how you're going to make your money back or your investments back, then you're just having a hobby there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, I want to note that could be where the payoff is. Another example for me is I actually do hire editors and cover artists, but the goal is to do what I call fan sourcing. I like to give people opportunities to work on my stuff so they can then put it on a resume that promotes both of us. So there are different payoffs. But again, I think what we covered is simply have a plan. And if your plan is terrible, at least it's a start. And if you have to change it, in the paraphrased words of Terry Pratchett, speaking through Granny Weatherwax, if you're going to have, the good thing about rules is you know why you had them when you break them.
This really falls into what we're saying about testing and failing quickly, too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, just start with small projects, with small plans, see how they go, and then revise.
Or I want to note this, as I said, it could be a longer term plan. Be willing to have bigger plans, but navigate them. It's like turning a larger ship. Understand, you still want to get somewhere in a different way. You're always going to revise. And I do want to pitch one thing. There's a book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. It is one of the few books I can truly say changed my life. It's a great book on organization and planning in a very non-stress method. I use a lot of its techniques on the job as well as personally. And anyone out there who is trying to, get their career in order should read Getting Things Done. It is epic.
I haven't heard of it. What's one of the parts of it that changed your life?
I would say probably one of the best ones is a negative, in that there is only so much you have to plan. The first thing to do is to know the next step. Now, coming from a programming background, techniques used for that, both what are called waterfall, linear development, and agile, which is more of queue-based development. Both of those still emphasize some long-term thought. But one of the things he emphasized is that in many cases, you just have to know what's next. And that really changed things for me, and that let me have less concern so I could get more things done. I mean, I'm working on 3 books now. It was 2, but one's too big. And David Allen's part of the reason I can do that. So yeah, in fact, we have someone in the chat noting how awesome Getting Things Done is. Yeah, Addie, David Allen is fantastic.
I gotta check this out.
Yeah, I think you should team up with Stan Lee, and they can be 2 guys with 4 first names. So the next thing, though, once you have a plan, is you got to figure out how to apply your skills. Turn your skills and abilities into services. And address what your audience needs. I mean, you know what they want, you know what you like, you know what you can do, you've built it up, you got a plan. Start turning it into action.
I think it's so interesting that you say that you're talking about wants, likes, and needs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hire people based on things I need, not things I want, not things I think, oh, it'd be nice if somebody did this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm hiring someone to do this because I can't or am really dreading doing it myself. And I think that's why people hire me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think urgency and pain are more motivating than it'd be nice if this happened.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah, in a lot of cases, we're called upon to relieve pain. I recently had some coaching sessions, and my coaching policy is the first half hour is free because 5 out of 6 people don't need me after that.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone who talked to me was having a seriously discomforting experience. People will pay to alleviate pain, discomfort, or issues or prevent them. Remember, you're helping them out. It's a service. It's something you're doing. But learn how to apply your skills. An example would be in writing. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm doing a series of smaller e-advice books over time. In fact, one of the gentlemen that actually is in the chat, Nathan Muner, was my inspiration for was doing smaller ebooks about specific subjects so I can help people out. Always remember you're doing stuff for somebody. And it's very easy when you're in a media-oriented profession, writers, artists, entertainers, to miss that you provide for somebody's needs.
You
So
know,
you have to keep that in mind and remember, apply your skills to solve stuff for them.
I think sometimes it's hard for people to grasp this because it's hard to believe that something I love to do and care about a ton is something that's actually painful for somebody else to imagine doing. I
Mm-hmm.
think, oh, I shouldn't be charging a ton for web design because web design is super fun.
Oh, yeah.
And but my clients would rather like stick ice picks in their eyes than do web design or something like that. Wow, that
One of
was
the things
graphic.
I get as a project and program manager is like, I love building plans and figuring out what's going to happen and making things happen. And Agile, Scrum, Kanban, Waterfall, fusion planning, building business processes, making the magic. This is awesome to me. But I know people look at Microsoft Project and they get hives. To me, I can't stop doing things, and people hand me money for it. And you have to remember that what's fun for some people isn't fun for others. I could not imagine ever being an actor. The same thing over and over again in uncomfortable outfits with inane scripts would drive me up a wall. I don't think I could ever be an actor.
And yet that's a dream career for many people.
Yeah, it's just amazing. So what you have to do though is keep applying those skills. And one thing to remember too is these all tie together. Those skills you're applying, they work into your plan. Those skills you're applying, you built them with your geeky interests. Those skills you're applying, they provide the value that your plan helps bring out. And that all comes from knowing yourself. And that's really important because this all ties together. And I will also say this, in applying your skills, a person that is passionate and cares is going to get more done than someone better at them that doesn't give a damn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one reason you want to know yourself, because you care. But that is an advantage over other people. And if you ever stop caring, that's a sign you need to change.
Yeah, that's a whole thing that I got from Fandom Pro, that actually your fandom is a pro in your career search.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it always is. Whenever I coach people on resumes, I tell them, put in your hobbies. I mean, again, we may not want to mention, say, the Deadpool fanfic. It depends. But I don't know. I could get you hired. But hobbies show you're a person. Hobbies are what fire you up when money isn't the reason for doing it. Except in your case with Gundams, apparently, but we won't go there. But people want to see you as a person, but also the fact that your hobbies fire you up. They direct your skills, they direct your interests, makes you human, makes you relatable. That helps you in the interview, but also it helps you understand other people. I'm not a big sports fan, but because I am a rabid geek, I can understand a lot of sports fans. Some people wonder if the Enterprise could take on a Star Destroyer. Other people are in fantasy football. First answer, no. Second answer, good luck, I'm really not interested.
Oh,
I know, right now there's got to be at least one person in the audience going, no, I'm convinced the Enterprise could take out a Star Destroyer as it's more maneuverable. So no one's arguing yet, but I'm sure that will come in there, and I've probably started a fan war. But yeah, definitely apply your skills so things get done for people.
You know, I'd be more likely to hire people who have hobbies that I can really relate to. And people who are open about their hobbies as well.
Mhm.
Like this designer that I've been working with for my books, my books and my Gundam logos. His name is Ben Huber,
Mhm.
benhuberdesign.com. Because at first, the first person I went to was just someone a friend recommended to do design. I'm like, well, I needed to be inspired by this kind of geeky robot thing. And they were like, maybe you should just get someone else to do it. And Ben isn't into Gundam at all. But I mailed him a bunch of Gundams that he could use while figuring out his designs, and he was totally cool with that. He actually built one of them. So really, just somebody who was interested in not brushing my hobbies off.
Mhm. And remember not to do the same for people. Well, you're there trying to build your geek dream job. You're not alone. So remember, when you deal with people in the job world, and believe me, your career of any kind is going to involve social skills. Trust me. Learn not to write their hobbies off either. The person you're talking to who is hopelessly addicted to every single variant of CSI, which I think is about 12 as far as I can tell by now. I'm waiting for CSI, your neighbors. But they have their interests for a reason. The person who is obsessed with the Seattle Seahawks, they have their reason. Use these experiences to understand them. And that will also go very far. You're trying to build your dream life, so are they. Help them out and use your ability to understand them. In fact, I would say that all the things you gain from steps 1 through 4, knowing yourself, providing value, building skills, having a plan, that should also teach you to relate to other people. That is a skill to actually apply. When you do that, it makes a big difference. One of the things I do in relieving pain is I am the manager. I am the project guy. I'm not the subtlest person. I'm a blunt instrument of management there. But I go in and I relieve the pain by being the guy that charges in, takes on this crazy thing, and organizes it. And I know that for other people, they don't want to do this stuff. It's painful. If I'm there, they're better off. So remember what it's like, and they have their own interests and concerns too. One guy, he'd rather, you have a manager who'd rather make high-level decisions. That's how he thinks. That's him, that's not me. Another guy wants to be the budget guy. He loves that stuff, not me. Relate to other people. That's a big skill to apply. And I think after applying the skills, that comes to that big critical thing, Lauren, step 6, develop and grow beyond your initial intent.
Yeah, I've actually turned this into a monthly routine, and I actually have it right here. Let me see how close I can get this. This is my July career goal list. So I make some goals for the month, and that for each section of my career, really, and then I start checking them off.
Yep.
And ideally, I get them all done in 1 month, like I did in July, which is why that's the one I'm showing you. I don't
As
always.
opposed to the current one, which is distracted by new anime season.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, sometimes when I don't manage to check something off the list, and maybe I've had it on my list for 2 weeks or 2 months, and I'm like, and then it's time to sit there and think, why am I not accomplishing this goal? Is this not something I really want to be part of my career? Is this something that is very difficult for me and I need to train more in order to be able to accomplish it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have to always be going back to step 1, knowing myself.
I do that too. My plan, and unfortunately, I've got it on my desk in the bedroom, so I can't go get it. But what I do is I have weekly, monthly, quarterly, and quarterly goals, and I do check those off, and I review them. Every week, I review my weekly and monthly goals. Every quarter, I review my quarterly and long-term goals, and I keep going through them. For instance, there's a few things I didn't get done this week because things got very, very busy. But at least I know. And I also work growth into that. I have a certification I want to get, the Certified Scrum Product Owner. Yes, I know everyone out there is going, "Ooh, my God, you'll be awesome when you get it." No, everyone in the chat is going, "What the hell's that?" But that's part of my career goal. I know how that'll affect my certifications. I know when I can put it in. I have to look at the way the new PMP certifications work, but always have ways to not just do stuff, but grow. Keep asking yourself how you get better. And how do you measure it? Because if you don't grow, just doing your job, you might grow. You won't know it unless you think about it. And you're less likely to grow if you don't push yourself. So you definitely need to make career growth. Once you have this working, even a little bit, you have to have career growth in your plan.
Yeah, you can't just stay still. I mean, my career is very fulfilling to me right now, but I don't know if it will always be. I know that future me wants to have a lot of options.
Mhm. And that's something to keep in mind as well. Maybe part of your career growth, your development and growth, is to open up new options. I have to make several calls in my career structure. There's basically 3 ways I can take it. I have to make a call in about, well, 4 ways I can take it. I have to make a call in the next 3 years. But at least I know what my options are.
Stephen, did you see the comment in chat about how we balance short-term goals and long-term goals?
That's a good question. For me, I view them as not separate. Long-term goals are composed of short-term goals. Short-term goals reinforce long-term goals. So in most cases, you actually ask how they link together. And if you can't align them or they interfere with each other, then you have a problem of your vision, almost back to number 1. But ask what those are. Now, your short-term goal might be, Jesus Christ, I need a vacation, take a week off, or I'll go insane. That's a great goal. That reflects your long-term goals and that you're not going to need therapy. But your long-term goals and your short-term goals should reflect each other. If you can't line them up, you have a problem.
I think that for myself and for Stephen and for really most people, short-term goals are a lot easier to take care of than long-term goals. I think long-term goals are where you need to be spending more of your mental energy because, as Stephen said, sometimes these short-term goals don't really add up to anything big. Any long-term goal is really just a bunch of short-term goals in succession that turn into something like a book or a course or a product or a new career.
But I'm actually going to argue with you there.
Oh.
You see, you may have to pay attention to long-term goals, but you got to do the short-term goals. You can get lost in your long-term goals. Take it from a long-term planner, that happens to a lot of people. In fact, folks like me who are project and program managers, that's one of our risks. So what I actually recommend doing is setting aside time. Here's my time for planning my long-term goals, my medium-term goals, my short-term goals. But you need to have a lot of time to get off your butt and do it. Or if you're like a writer, get on your butt and do it. Sit down and write.
I'm addicted to short-term goals, though.
What?
I'm addicted to these short-term goals. Like, I just feel so good getting something done. Like Nathan said.
That's why they're important, though. Short-term goals are important because you need success. We need reinforcement. The thrill of success is something to seek, not because, ooh, I feel good. It's not trying to get high. What it is a signal you're on the right path. So you want that little buzz of success to tell you, I'm doing something right. But when you string those little buzzes of success together in short-term goals, then you achieve the long-term goal. Each of those is a beacon, a sign of navigation.
I don't think that's arguing with what I said. I think short-term goals do add up to long-term goals.
Okay, the way you said something, either way, but yeah, you want to make sure you look for get those short-term goals done. For instance, last night I wanted to finish going through the interviews for that book on Sailor Moon Bonnie and I are writing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe you should tell everyone more about that book.
Well, that's actually not appropriate. Besides, I might do a whole webinar on it. I'm saving it up.
Oh.
But short term, for those guys who want to know, what was roughly a late night con conversation turned into now I am writing a book on Sailor Moon's impact with a friend. I still can't entirely figure out when we decided to write this. But, you know, even if I was feeling a little tired and under the weather, I got a goal done. It felt good. So work on those short-term goals, relate them to the long-term goals, and follow the buzz. You will be very happy with that.
I like that. Follow the buzz.
Well, now we've got a name for one of our upcoming panels. Besides, I'm usually jazzed up enough on coffee. I know exactly what a buzz feels like. I'm addicted to iced coffee now. I don't drink it hot anymore. I've got a problem, and I can admit it, but at least it's not pumpkin spice. So I'd say after you do development and growth, you want to also make sure that some of it's got to be formalized. And this is where I want to go into something special, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you grow, no one knows you did. Growth is important for you, but you have to measure it. But you also have to show it to other people. An example would be, I use my books. I use them in interviews. In fact, I'm turning one of my presentations for the Project Management Institute into a book, because not only is it useful, but it actually shows people something more than, yeah, I spoke at this place and made everyone laugh. But also, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead, Stephen. I was going to direct you to a question in chat after this.
Let me finish that. Let me finish that up there. But you also have to show it off. One of the things I always recommend is certifications. A good certification or degree goes far because it shows you're good at something. It possibly shows you took classes. And if anything else, it shows you gave a damn enough to shell out the money to get it. But you need to find a way to display your knowledge to people to build your career. For an artist, it might be a good portfolio. For someone whose career might, say, be more engineering oriented, it could be certifications. You have to know how to build your skills to show you're good and getting better.
For a writer, if I wanted to add this in, I would say that one of the ways you show your skills is by working for different outlets than you usually do, getting to a different audience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah, definitely. I know what you mean. And we do have a question in the chat. What happens if you have a bunch of short-term goals and not a long-term goal in mind? I'd actually say, and then we got a question on education. I'd actually say with the long and short-term goals, what you need to do is, first of all, see if the short-term goals actually add to a long-term goal. Maybe they do and you didn't see it. 2, evaluate. Maybe you just need short-term goals right now, but create a short-term goal to see when you need long-term goals. And it is possible that you do need more long-term goals, and you should take the time to examine that. That depends. It depends on your case. If you're reaching these goals, good, just keep an eye on it, which is why I review iteratively, sometimes short, sometimes long.
I figured this stuff out through journaling. I just showed you my journal where I mean, a lot of people keep diaries to talk about their lives. Mine's really just to talk about my career.
Mm-hmm.
I journal about what things are going well in my career, what things I just hate doing, what things I love doing and want to do more of, where I see my life 10 years from now. And I'll like kind of go off on a fantasy like, I make this much and I work this many times and I work from home this often and I work at a co-working space this often. Things like that. And I find that these journal sessions are what turn into the long-term goals. It's really easy to figure out short-term goals based on what's required of me, what bosses say to do, what I absolutely have to get done in order to survive and make a living. But the long-term goals come from these like musings of what do I really want? It's just me and my thoughts. Wow, that's real woo-woo.
Journaling is actually important because it builds a narrative you can operate on. We are story-driven creatures.
Yeah.
So what I do is I actually have this narrative in my head of who I am and where I'm going. I mean, it may not be the best, but journaling and writing down visions really, really helps. But I pair it with measurements too. And finding the right balance is hard.
What's amazing is that sometimes in my journal, I have such a short memory that like I'll write something like, I really want to work on a course for X kind of people that will help them with Y. And then I won't work on it. And then I'll see like a month later, I journal the same thing.
Always.
And when something keeps coming up, maybe it's a good idea.
Exactly. Also, we have a question here about what are thoughts on online learning platforms versus more traditional schooling? That's an area that I've got to admit I'm really not sure of, because I think it depends on your career and what you get out of it. The first measure is, does the class actually teach you anything? And if it teaches you something, you can apply it, good. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Secondly, does it give you other advantages? Part of the advantage of social schooling, face-to-face or chat-driven, is that you meet other people. Always remember there's more than just the class. I still have contacts I talked to from when I got my Certified Scrum Master course. That was extra valuable. And finally, how does it look on your resume and to other people? You know, something may be pretty good training, but if the option is something equally good that has more clout, then you probably want to go with that. I mean, also there's price and other things too. You have to balance that. But you have to ask, do you learn? What about the peripheral advantages? And finally, how is it regarded? Remember, part of any job is to demonstrate your skills to people and demonstrate what you can do. Your degrees and training and such do affect how people regard you.
Yeah, I do a lot of free schooling,
Mhm.
actually online. Not really just Udemy. I've been using W3 Schools lately to teach myself jQuery. I find that it's a lot harder to stay on track not with free schooling, not only because it's harder to find than if you pay for something and it's all packaged into one class or one
Mhm.
book, but also I really have to treat it like a job. So what I do is I use a time tracking service. Oh, this actually goes into Ladita Lynn's question about how do I discipline myself, being my own boss.
Why don't we
You,
actually merge into that question then? How do we discipline ourselves?
well, I use this time tracking software called letsfreckle.com. It's actually called Freckle, but it's I'm writing it in chat. Letsfreckle.com. What I do with this is I put up a bunch of clients because I have a lot of them being a freelancer, but also one of those clients is me. And that client's projects, my projects, don't require invoices. They're free projects, but I want to make sure that I'm working on them at least a certain number of hours a week. So
Bingo.
one of my projects is called Learn jQuery.
Mhm.
And I try to devote an hour to jQuery schooling a day.
Mhm.
And I get it from all kinds of free places.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm treating it like a job, it's as valuable to me as paying for a class.
And that is a thing you should remember is in organizing yourself, organization is organization. Um, what you want to do is use that organization in a way that works for you. One of the things I found, I'm a contractor, but I've also worked for bosses, and I also do my freelance writing on the side. What I found helps me is setting goals and measurements and regular review. You know, as I said, weekly reviews, monthly reviews, and so on. When you do your reviews, though, if you're not done, if you're behind, figure out why,
Yeah.
what you'll do, and then set goals. You may even need to go and say, I will do X on this day. You can sometimes lighten up after that, but if you find you're really bad on it, you might actually have to set daily goals. One thing I do when things get crazy is the day before another day, I decide what I'm doing the next day. And then I have that list and I get it done. For some people, planning works best on different levels, and that changes with your career and your age and experience. But decide on when setting goals and deciding on when things to do is going to help you get things done. And find a
Yeah.
way to measure it. A great measure is, hey, I got this done on time. Someone handed me a check for $10,000. I assure you that is going to improve your organizational skills vastly the next time.
Yeah, money is a really good motivator.
Mhm.
Also, having free time later is a good motivator. You
Mhm.
know, Stephen, though, you seem more organized than I am. One of the things I have to do is like really punish myself, actually. Like, I use these two apps called rescuetime.com and stayfocused.com
What?
that really just prevent me from viewing Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr.
Mhm.
Like I literally sometimes cannot access these at times of the day.
I have a different problem with that. I type very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and it deludes me into believing I can do more things at once. So I don't need to lock down time per se like that. What I need to do is decide on using my time. And because I'm a natural organizer, I can also delude myself into thinking I'm organized. You do need tools, and you do need to think ahead. I don't punish myself. In fact, I think that's a bad idea over time
Mm-hmm.
because you can develop an adverse sense of yourself. You can begin to dislike yourself. I view it as working with my best traits and getting things done. You may need discipline, but that's not the same thing. If you care about yourself enough to be disciplined, see, I don't think you punish yourself. I think you're trying to help yourself.
Yeah, I
Those are
guess
the different.
so. I'm still learning things from you, though. I mean, you've been doing this longer than I have,
I am
so.
paid to do this stuff. That's the sad part. It's like, come in
Mhm.
and be anal retentive for us. Here's money. That's my life. But
Yeah.
it's
I
also
think
something
something
you
else,
learn.
I think this is like the biggest problem I have in my freelance career, and
Mhm.
something that I still am continually learning about myself.
Well, also, someone mentioned that you have to make sacrifices. Knowing what's important to you is how you organize your time. I'll give you an example. We joked earlier that I love to play Team Fortress 2. This is my way of blowing off steam, joke not intended. I will make time for this because there are times if I don't stop myself, I will burn myself out. So it's all a matter of knowing what's important and what sacrifices you have to make. But sometimes the sacrifice is to stop doing work and go outside.
Yeah. For
You have
me,
to remember that.
I have to know when to say no to different projects because
Oh yeah.
I would go crazy if I worked as much as you do. You work a ton and it's awesome.
Actually,
But
it's just organization.
mhm. Like it's really important to me to have time around 4:30 to start making dinner and then make dinner, eat dinner with my husband and then go back to work. But it's really important for me to have that time in my life.
Here's a funny thing. Everyone who knows me knows I like to cook. In fact,
Yeah. And you're
if
a
you're in the
great
Bay
cook.
Area, I actually do panels on Japanese curry, and I will probably be doing more work on that. But I actually apply my organizational skills to my cooking. So I cook 2 weeks, I cook every week. I organize a time to cook. And though I love to cook, because I do it as here's a mass of food. I mean, right now there are 12 servings of brown sauce in the refrigerator, in the freezer, along with a bunch of food. I have more time. I
Mhm.
enjoy my cooking, but I do it in a way that gives me more time.
I think it's really great what Addie said about like how he or she knows. I'm sorry, Addie. When they focus better, and that's one thing that might be personal to you, and
Hmm.
that even if you're working for another boss, this is something that you, as the boss of you, know best about yourself and can plan. Like I know that around 4:30, I want to stop for a bit,
Hmm. Exactly.
and I start getting distracted around then.
Yeah, we all have to know what works. Now, that also we're talking about growth and evolving. That's our
Mhm.
final subject in your geeky career. Measure your success and ask, how do basically you evolve your plan? How do you get more customers? How do you grow in your skills? Your plan is going to be done at some point. What's next? You're always evolving. A new technology can come in, a new trend. Something else is going to happen that changes your career, or you will want to change yourself. So always be ready to evolve. I had mentioned I have basically about 4 career choices in the next 3 years about where to go with my career. And I know this, and I will be able to make that call effectively because of my research. But you have to think like this. You always have to keep evolving.
Yeah, one thing that I find very helpful is that every time I finish a project and the client says, "Oh, that was great," if they say that, I mean, usually they do. I say, "Oh, that's awesome. Could you send me a recommendation?" Like
Mhm.
a really small endorsement. It doesn't have to be more than a
Oh,
sentence
yeah.
of what it was like working with me.
And
And
get it
that's,
on LinkedIn too. I have a separate hobbyist writer section where I ask for recommendations.
yeah, and it's free for them to do, but it can really make a difference when you're looking for new stuff because you won't always have the same clients.
Hmm.
You won't
Exactly.
always have the same goals or projects.
Hmm. Exactly. And you have to keep evolving. I mean, my example, when I first did my writing career, it was only going to be geeky jobs and only narrow focus. Then I realized because I had to keep doing the same stuff every time, doing the same, doing the same information in my panels, I realized there really need to be basic career books. So I've written 3 of them. In fact, if you go to stevensavage.com or informotron.com, my press site, you can actually see I did a book on jazzing up resumes. I have 3 basic career books because it was needed.
Oh,
So
you could.
then I went to general careers. Now I'm branching out to do more geeky stuff, where I'm going to be doing the Sailor Moon book and the book on fictional world building.
Stephen,
But
what's
I keep evolving.
interesting is that you can get these as part of our webinar exclusive book bundle, these very books you were discussing.
Well, most of them. The new resume book is a Kindle exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of a larger experiment. But yeah, that's a good way to pitch our books. In fact, we're actually getting close to closing time, Lauren, so maybe we ought to see if there's any other questions for the audience.
Sure. Yeah, I can also talk about these books some more. I said even just one of these 9 books changed my life.
Well, I'd like to hope we can help some others, but I'm going to check our chat now, see if we have any more questions, or if they're merely stunned by our massively charismatic presence and have nothing more to say.
Oh my goodness. Wow, we really did fill up an hour.
No, it's easy, and
Yes.
you know this isn't going to be the last podcast we do. You know we've got other ideas.
The difference between a want and a need in chat.
The difference between a want and a need is that a need is something that will, if you don't get fulfilled, will negatively affect your life. A want can be discomforting. A need is something where you've got to have it or there will be severe repercussions. Money is a need. A collection of gunpla figures is a want. Sorry, Lauren.
It's a need. No, it's not. Yeah, but it's like we were saying in module 5. I mean, you're doing people a favor because by hiring you, it should ideally keep them from doing something that they're just dreading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have another question here. In the vein of Brentalfloss, the famous geek musician, how does someone gain an audience? This is something funny for me, is that I'm really mixed at this. In fact, I'll admit I'm learning to market still. So I am still working on this, but I would say be a person. That's one of the big things I learned, is be a person and have something people want, but make sure it gets out there. But people relate to personalities. I'm finding more people relate to Steven Savage than they do to even knowing I have books.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot with YouTube.
I'm still learning too.
The kind of people who I gravitate towards watching on YouTube. I mean, if you think about PewDiePie, he is always just unapologetically himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes he's over the top. Sometimes you're like, I disagree with that. I think that's not my particular sense of humor. The point is that I feel like he doesn't care what I think. He's going to keep being himself.
Well, in a way, does he exist, or if he didn't exist, would we have to invent him? Seriously, you have to be yourself. Like me, my whole thing is I'm the geek job guru. I joke about this. I'm the man that spent 18 months getting Japanese curry right. But that's memorable. If you're not a person, you will be hard to relate to. And even if you sell or succeed, people will project onto you. And you've got to be careful about that as well. So literally be yourself. Turns out you're a colossal jerk. You might want to rethink that self for a while. Then go be.
I don't think anyone here is a colossal jerk.
Someone asked, we do have to close up in a minute, but is there a niche that's too narrow? Yes. If the niche is going to go away or doesn't pay your bills or make you happy, that's too narrow.
Yeah, or if you run out of things to say about it. When I'm telling people about creating a blogging niche, I say try to come up with blog posts for a month. If you can come up with blog posts for a month, then you have a topic that you can continue to talk about. Yeah.
It's like one of the mistakes I made is my blogging lately has only been on my civic geek writing, and I've been doing less careers, and I'm pitching to a smaller niche and people want me to get back to the career stuff. So definitely. In fact, I do think though we're going to have to start closing up here.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody.
It was great to see everyone. Well,
yeah.
See you, Stephen. I just heard everyone else in the chat.
Well, we'll probably be doing something like this again. I want to do more webcasts.
In the meantime, if you are just tuning in or tuned in late, this replay will be available almost immediately after we sign off. And you'll be able to get our webinar exclusive bundle for another 34 hours. Well, until midnight on, I believe, Monday night.
Yes, and I definitely would recommend checking it out. I'm not just biased because it's my books. In there, it's that you'll get a lot of career knowledge, but you'll also get it from 2 people that have done this, made it work, and really want you to succeed. I want more people to succeed out there, you know. So I think, Lauren, we can probably sign off for now, but I'm sure people will be seeing us later.
That's right.
Take care, everyone. Lauren, you're the one initiating this. Sign us out.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care.